But it's like, as soon as you do it, like, oh, okay, now I've got it. Now I know exactly what I need to do. And let me like hit this fanatically and like do that consistently, which is really incredible.
Nice. You make a nice profit on that, or how did you?
I did, yeah. So everything from it paid for all my college, as well as like bought my first car with it. So the cool thing is the technology already exists. So this is what I went into. So it's like the first thing is prototyping the actual it's a recreational vehicle, aerial vehicle that anybody can drive, basically. Oh yeah, we could like do this for the government and, do it even at MVP prototype stage of get like a 50 mil valuation, raise 10 mil in seed funding. So I was like, oh, okay, there's definitely interest. I'm curious about this. I'd love to ask you about this since you're in that finance world too, of like, what are the practical things of like, if people are like literally in debt? Because I have some ideas, but I'd love to hear from you as well.
Guys, welcome back to the Macro Show with Forrest, where we talk about everything on the macro. And so this show is called specifically Your Relationship with Money. Today's guest, Jay Storm, a friend of mine here local in Miami. Known you for maybe a year or so. We met here at a men's group, but yeah, man, maybe just introduce yourself. But
awesome, man. Yeah, I'll look towards both.
It's good for the gram if you want to like cut it out later.
Awesome. Yeah, so my name's Jay Storm. I'm local to Miami, have been my background's actually in finance. I was a CFO for several years, went to school for it, and then
Really?
But I've been doing like business since I was like 17. Yeah, right now I run an AI engineering company, do consulting, and yeah, for teams that want to build out either their sales or reduce the cost to acquire a customer, improve efficiencies, make your team more productive. We do all that for companies right now. But yeah, I've absolutely love talking about money. I think it's super important to just have an understanding of
Need it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's something that isn't talked about enough. If you don't learn good habits from your parents, then you're out of necessity have to learn them by yourself. And there's a lot of, pitfalls that come with that, but it's it's definitely a passion of mine anyways.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, I've definitely I've learned about most of the pitfalls through direct experience. So, which is fine. And so, I'll just tell you, like, the reason I started this show is because, especially here in Miami, it's something I think we all think about. We talk about a little bit. It's just like the allure of like the material, right? And I think there's a place in life for material possessions. You're a fashionable guy. Like, see it. I'm a fashionable guy. Like, everybody likes to have things. I think it's silly to act like we don't like things. I think that the things that we have, especially on us, represent kind of how we feel about ourselves. It could also be the house you live in represents, the car you drive. But then there's like that dangerous part of it that we all understand where it's like, am I just getting things because I'm not sure of who I am and I'm constantly getting that external validation, right? So I started this show really to have more of that measure, just like, what should our relationship with money even be? And what are the things that we've learned? So we're going to go back in time to young Jay. And let's just say, like, in your formative years, maybe if you can remember like grade school, what was your perception, if you can recall that far back, of money? And maybe we can ground it like this. This isn't something I've asked anyone yet, but like, do you feel like kind of where you were, like your family was maybe ahead of your peers or you were behind your peers? Did you feel kind of equal? Was there anything that you observed at that time in your life just around like money?
Yeah, great question. So going back to so I was raised in Aspen, which is one of the wealthiest like places in the U.S.
Is that in California?
It's in Colorado actually. It's like a super ski town basically.
Yeah, I've seen some like houses on.
Exactly. Yeah, like these giant mansions. So I lived about 45 minutes away from it. My parents weren't like in the uber wealthy, but we were in the, I would say like middle class, upper middle class.
Yeah.
So going to school there, I had a lot of exposure to a lot of families that like and friends that had like enormous amounts of wealth.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, from what I observed and kind of the things I was taught as like a kid and my family's values it was about saving. So they had like really good money management and like saving was a principle that we actually did. And we didn't have and we like worked for our money. So it's like, I'd actually have to do things to make money. And, I went to work as like a 15-year-old doing like manual labor. So they taught me that of like, you got to work, you got to make your money and you save it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing. So in that regard, I feel like I was set ahead of peers and just in general of like knowing how to manage money, even from like a very young age. And then it really didn't open up for me until I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and Think and Grow Rich. Classic books. Recommend them for anybody. If you've not read them, like they're the classics of self-development and money literature, I would say.
Just as a quick nugget for anybody who hasn't read them, this is a super paraphrasing, but it's like the difference between assets and liabilities. It's like a core tenet theme in those books, right? Think and Grow Rich. That's more Rich Dad Poor Dad. Think and Grow Rich is mindset, but
Right.
assets and liabilities.
Exactly. It's like invest in things that are going to pay you money. Don't buy things that are going to take away money. So that was probably in college, I would say, is when I started reading and developing my own idea of money. So it wasn't taken from my parents of this. I've always been like pretty decent at like managing money.
Yeah.
And like, make more than is going out, or keep more than is going out. And, but it wasn't really until I started reading books on investing. Specifically, I read Tony Robbins' seven money principle, or I don't know, 7 steps to money. But it's where he interviewed like 50 billionaires and like gave a lot of information about like, okay, here's how you actually invest. Here's how you get into the stock market and things of that nature. So that really evolved and opened up my mind, especially with reading those several books of like, oh, my parents were always focused on like the saving, which is like the start of it. Like you need to have something to invest, to acquire assets.
Yeah.
And that was the real thing of like, oh, here's the different types of assets that you can acquire. And it started with, stocks and then it's gradually evolved into like business, selling. I sold my first business when I was 23.
Nice.
It was a gym. And then, from there, it's just been like, accumulating and building assets. Usually it's within, for me, it's like stocks and then business.
Yeah. So let's go back. That's a really interesting point. I think that's something a lot of people haven't even started a business to sell. So let's go before that, right? So you were raised, you had to work for your money. So did they like pay, like if you did chores, would they give you your allowance based off of things like that?
No,
Or you actually went and got a job?
I wouldn't got a job.
Gotcha. So you went and worked, got your own money. Same here. Like I started working at 15, had, which was nice, by the way. It's funny looking back. Like I was a busser at a restaurant, made all my money from tips. I made a lot of tips and I had no expenses at the time. So my mom gave me her old car. It was like a piece of crap, but sorry, Mom, if you see this, but gave me a car. All I had to pay for was gas. I didn't have expenses. So even though I wasn't making a ton of money, it was infinite money.
Right.
Did I keep a single dollar? No. Right. Which is important, right? It doesn't really matter how much you make. Because on the flip side of that, I can tell you, especially being in like the trading world now, there's no amount of money that you can have that will prevent you from losing all of it at once. It's one of those things like you could literally, if you have 5 million, you have 10 million, 30 million, like you could spend that in a day. They're like somebody will sell you something or there'll be something out there that you can waste it on. But yeah, so you started working at, that was a little tangent, working at 15, you're in high school. So when did you go from that to starting your own business that you sold at 23?
So that would have been when I was 18.
Okay. And what was
It was a CrossFit gym. So yeah, I got certified as CrossFit and then I worked as a trainer. So my dad and I co-owned it. So we founded it and then I worked throughout my senior year of high school and then first 2 years of college I had to pay for my own college too. I didn't get, parents thankfully didn't pay for anything of mine. I had to like earn everything and then actually buy it. So I definitely valued both my education and anything that I did acquire, like
awesome.
First car, things of that nature too. So that was a blessing. And then, worked for about 5 years and then sold it when I finished up my associates and then went to get a bachelor's at a Florida school at UCF.
Cool. All right. Dope. So you started that with your, was it like his idea, your idea, or did you have to like convince him to invest in it?
Yeah. So we were both in CrossFit at the time and we were moving my senior year and we couldn't find, there was no CrossFit gym where we were moving to. It was like in the middle of like little town, Tennessee. Yeah. And there was no gym there that was a CrossFit. So we were like, oh, why don't we just start one? And then we got certified and then we just started it just from nothing. And acquired equipment, did marketing, had to do training. And I basically like led all the trainers. And then during like negotiations when we were about to sell, I helped actually do the negotiations and sell it and then had a percent equity stake. So
nice. You make a nice profit on that or how to get it?
I did. Yeah. So I mean, everything from it paid for all my college as well as, like bought my first car with it and, on the exit, had money to sustain me through college as I actually did trading during college. Interestingly
yeah?
enough,
Nice.
yeah, I didn't have any other business. I just was investing in that.
Nice. Cool, man. So you had a whole kind of entrepreneurial cycle there, which is pretty cool to see. What would be your advice for somebody who's thinking about like starting? It seems like to you, there's a very clear point that I saw. There was a market need, right? It was that simple. It's like, I want to do this thing. Nobody is letting me spend my money. Why don't I let other people give me their money, right? But like, how would you kind of go through your thought process at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it really begins with, especially if it's like a problem that I see or am experiencing. And this is just in general what I say is like, if you see a problem or if you're experiencing a problem, there's probably a market for that other people would pay for if you're willing to pay for it or to have that solution. So it's always a great place to start. And then it's always an even better thing when you are the market, because that was the thing with the gym is like, I got to program the workouts. I got to do how I wanted the classes. I wanted stretching things. So you actually get to see what people want, but you become the guinea pig in that regard of like, oh, like these are the things that I would want. And that's a pretty good indication of what the market would want then.
Yeah. No, and I think people often overcomplicate it, right? Especially, if you come from a family where maybe there are no other entrepreneurs, right? I'd say most people go down the direct path. Obviously, you still went to college though, which is interesting. Right. So you did a venture. You still want to use that money to go and still get a traditional education. A lot of people though get stuck because it doesn't feel safe, right? There's not that safety there. And so you could say maybe you de-risked it by going in with your dad. When I bought my first property, like my mom was an investor on that. So she kind of de-risked it / just trusted me. So there's a lot of ways to make it happen. But I think ultimately, like if somebody's watching this, you just have to do the simple thing, which is like solve your own problem for everybody. And there's guaranteed a market. The world is really simple. I think this is an idea that I've found, especially in trading, as I go deeper into trading. Like the world is held together by like duct tape, like things are really, really simple.
And so are businesses.
Yeah.
Every business I've worked in, literally duct tape, from billion-dollar businesses all the way down to startups.
Excel, every Fortune 100 company, it's like all the key data points are in someone's head or on a spreadsheet, then all the high tech stuff is on the edges. But yeah, I mean, just jump into it. That's cool, man. So after that, you went to college and used that to fund your college. What were you thinking about money at the time, right? Because you were already an entrepreneur. So were you like, I need to do more entrepreneurial stuff. I want to go get a job. Like, what were your aspirations financially at the time, and how did you want to accomplish it?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I went to college with a very specific goal. So my associates was in accounting. So I was going to college for accounting to start an accounting firm. And then when I got into college, I realized they had us take these classes of like the basic class. I went in as a junior and then did realize that I was like, oh my gosh, accounting is just like numbers, but finance is like future projections. And I was like, man, I'm way into this of like, hey, yeah, let me do these, they call them pro formas, but basically like future analysis of like where the business could be. And that really interested me because then I was like, oh yeah, here's the numbers to do it. Okay, great. Now let's go do it. Yeah. And so it's, so at the time, my thoughts of money were getting the skills and like finding others. I had like several startup ideas that I did within college. So I was always passionate about, and I always had something going on that I was trying to build. And so that was kind of my mindset with money at the time, was like, get the skills, like multiply what I have, and just, that was pretty much it. It was just multiply what I have and like try out some things, try out different businesses that I was passionate about or thought.
So a big part of it was just like trying stuff.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that's like a lot of people who are entrepreneurial is like just like learning things, trying things. That's why entrepreneurship is often serial, right? They call people serial entrepreneurs. That's kind of just entrepreneurship, like to me. Like unless you strike it big and love what you're doing, because sometimes you'll start a successful business and you don't really like it, like that happens. Like sometimes like you start making money, like this is cool, and then you do it, and then you just reach your end sooner because it's like, all right, now that I have this money, like I don't want to do this for 20 more years. I actually want to use this money to go and risk it on some other venture, right? Which is pretty common as well. So cool, man. So you started a few ventures, you eventually graduated, and then how did you become a CFO? Get us there.
Yeah. So graduated finance and then went in actually to wealth management.
Okay.
So I went more of to a traditional. I wouldn't say a traditional company. It was a fintech, so a financial startup company where it was really cool. It was called Personal Capital at the time. They got acquired after a year of me being there, and it was a place to basically, I forget, I think Mint does it too, but you could aggregate like all your assets into one place and then monitor your portfolio.
Yeah.
And so I was in that route of, so in finance, there's two things. You could do the personal wealth management or you could do like corporate finance. And that I was going into the like personal wealth management. And that's basically what they did. And then I was on track to like becoming I don't know, like getting the Series 7, doing like trading, like doing all that and like being a wealth manager. And after a year of that, I was like, oh my gosh, I hate this. Like this is like corporate misery. And then I quit like after a year. And the only reason I stayed a year was my mom said like, well, just stay a year, like as long as you stay here. So I stayed a year to the day and then left.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, how I got into the CFO world was I basically for that year I did some stuff in real estate. I like went back and learned a lot about marketing because I really didn't know much about marketing. So shout out to Russell Brunson. I got his ClickFunnels stuff, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like funnels, marketing, cool.
Yeah.
And did that for a year, and then met someone at the event who was running a very profitable short-term Airbnb real estate coaching company, and then basically just talked with him. He's like, hey, I feel like you should partner with me. Like you have a really sharp mind. And I was like, okay, great. And he was like, yeah, you can be my CFO. I was like, great. So that's how I did that and basically just learned on the job, taking the financial skills I had, but really just like learning how to apply a lot of, because what they teach in school is cool. There was only one class that was a real estate investing class that basically just taught me how to use Excel. And based off that, I understood from my backing of like my mom actually of just like bookkeeping and I had to do my taxes since I was 15 because they wouldn't do them for me. and yeah, started doing CFO work and then realized I was really good with not just the numbers, but actually, again, getting the teams to actually hit those numbers. Because like you can create whatever financial project, like as business owners, we're always optimistic and you know, we have these plans and goals and I have them for myself. But if you can't rally the team to actually hit those numbers, they don't really mean anything. They're just on paper.
Yeah. There's an aspect of that too. And I'm curious, like when you're like a solopreneur, I could tell you have your projections. And then in terms of rallying the team, like you're the team. But then you're like, all right, that's a cool spreadsheet. Now I have to go into work mode
Yeah.
and execute. That is different. That is very different. Cool, man. So how do you, I guess, with the wins and kind of just the experience you have so far, like, you know, what's next or kind of what are you working on now? You're working on AI stuff. We can talk about that for forever. But yeah, what is your view? I mean, you're sitting here in Miami, you know, been here for a while. Is this your forever home, you think, or?
I wouldn't say it's my forever home. I'm definitely here for a while. God has me here. I have a great community and it's a great place.
Yeah.
So I don't have any plans to move.
Yeah.
Now with that said, I have been in several places and I thought I was going to move to South Africa before I came here. And like literally day before I'm supposed to move over there, like have a business like partner. We're doing everything. We're setting up an entire house, like have everything booked. Yeah. Night before he calls, he's like, hey, not going. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's off the table. So it's like, regardless of what comes up, I'm always willing to move. But I do love Miami. So for now, I'm definitely here.
No, it's a fun city. So I guess.
I didn't actually answer your question though.
Yeah.
Plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, I'm focused on scaling the AI consulting company.
Okay.
So
yeah, break that down for me. What are we?
Yeah. So right now it's getting ads up and running. Right now it's all been word of mouth and my like, you know, just meeting people at events I go to. And now we're starting to run, that's when I'm getting ads up and running. So that's been really cool because I've been working with several companies. I've done done AI build outs for I think 35 to 50 plus companies at this point. So
Nice.
it's now I'm just like, okay, time to, you know, put on the gas. It's been something that I realize comes very easily to me and I can break down very complex thing like how to use this AI very practically of like how it ties into, no, here's how you actually make money from it. There's a lot of businesses are like, oh yeah, we need AI, but it's like, there's not a very practical approach of like, well, how exactly do you implement it so it actually improves productivity or like you're actually seeing a return on it? Because I'm a very financial guy. If you don't see an ROI, it's like, or you can't measure the ROI, it's like, well, it's a cool toy. but,
or a waste of money.
or a waste of money.
It might
Yeah,
not be a cool toy. It could actually just
exactly.
be putting you out of business. So
Yeah. No, it's there's a ton of bloated software costs that a lot of companies have, and that kind of goes into, well, bloated software costs and bloated I would say employee costs, but not in the sense of like I'm overpaying the employee. It's more so they're not operating at the maximum efficiency that they could be or that they want to be because of hindrances, because there's a broken system, because
Yeah.
no one's holding them accountable or things of that nature.
cool. So what is it using like LLMs or kind of or is it kind of just like, hey, we don't understand AI, like talk to us, like what is the level of consulting, like implementation, or
Yeah.
what do you guys
So usually I go in on the sales side because that's the easiest path to ROI is looking at sales and either implementing a AI voice agent that complements the sales team and can book appointments, and combining that with a like 365-day like AI follow-up campaign. Because a lot of times the biggest issues that companies face is you have your sales team, but you have leads coming in, who knows when they're called, like sales guys have their own calls. So, and then it's like, okay, let's say you get them called. Well, then if they don't like book immediately or anything like that, then they're just like, okay, yeah, I'll follow up with them once, twice. And a lot of times there's just not great systems. And especially from a human perspective, I've been in sales and it's a lot to follow up with people. So just complementing that with an AI that can continuously follow up with people, be there immediately, just improves, booking rates, improves revenue, and you can see massive and really focuses your team to be able to like focus on the closing and not necessarily the tedious work that they, prior would have had to be doing, which oftentimes they're just not even doing because it's just too much.
Yeah. And for anybody who hasn't been in a sales role, like there's an entire process or pipeline, I suppose. And it starts with like, say I didn't know Jay, but I get his email or I get it on the list. And then I reach out to you. Then he responds once. Like that exchange is like a status. It doesn't really matter what we call it, but just like every interaction with every person is like some tracked thing. And that's why it gets really hairy. It's fine if I'm just Jay's my only customer, if I only have 10 customers. But what if I have like a lead list of 200,000, right, across an enterprise? Well, that's where it's like, okay, and Jay might be like, you might be actually trying to buy, but maybe you're more patient, right? So I actually need to follow up with you. So there's just money left on the table. So that makes sense. I mean, I've enterprise sales for years, totally get it. A lot of time just like checking in on people, or sometimes people just say yes and then they'll disappear. Then it's like,
Yeah.
you're gonna do this deal or not, right? So, but yeah, AI. I think AI is going to be most useful in current processes. So I think people think of AI as like highly transformative, which I think it will be. I just don't think we're there yet. I think AI is going to be like, if I can use AI in the middle of what I'm already doing, that's where it makes the most sense. Like I think that's where kind of ChatGPT hit its limit. I'll use programming as an example. Like a lot of people use it, but it's like you have to copy your code, paste it in the ChatGPT, and then copy it and paste it back. And that was just like nifty at first, but then it's your workflow for that is terrible versus like having it directly like in your editor, or same for like email. I think Outlook has like an integration. Like if you can just do it without me, if we need to get to like promptless AI, I think those are the solutions that are going to really take off. Automated like calls where it's just like, I don't have to like do anything. It's just like, hey, we followed up with so-and-so. Oh, nice. Now I can just, and it schedule a meeting. I'll go to the meeting, and I'll just do my part, which is like close the deal. I think that is really where AI is going to have the most immediate impact for me. And,
That's exactly where I went to, because I was like, okay, there's all these like ideas, like nobody needs this to write like a paragraph or something like that. Or like you write in as like, hey, write me an email on this, and the email sucks. Like it's the things that you were saying of like, okay, if this can complement my workflow, or like actually just do it for me. And so I don't have to do anything. It's like, if it would just reach out to my leads automatically, writing them the emails and doing that, and I just like upload a lead list, that's what I want. And then it just books a meeting.
Yeah.
So that's where I had the idea originally back when it first came out of basically AI agents that would continuously follow up with people.
Yeah.
And then the technology actually caught up to it where I was able to build it and then apply it to the companies I was working with. So there's definitely, and doing things that really actually help instead of just like pretend to help is the other thing.
There's the other side of it too, where like, if I have to check the work every time, I don't want to use it. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, you scheduled the meetings, but are they correct? Or you scheduled the meetings, did you send like a weird meeting description, like with typos? Like, does it make sense? That's the other thing I saw with with LLMs, just as like a programmer, where it's like it gave you an answer, but it's not correct. So now you don't trust every answer. So there's actually just added brain power instead of just doing it yourself. So I think there's a lot of upside. I think what would be really interesting is in terms of like finance or personal finance, like how could we, and I guess it's just a question, like, is there anywhere you see AI being like immediately helpful for people in like personal finances, whether it's improving their savings or something like that?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I actually created this when I was doing some CFO stuff. Because one of the ideas was to create a AI assistant that would help me do CFO analysis. And essentially you can actually, this already exists today. I'd have to go back and like find the prompts that I was using, but it can do an analysis of your like current financial situation and actually give you like CFO level analysis on what to do next, especially
Yeah.
if you input your goals. Because this is what I had is like, or like what I did as a CFO is basically you would take the financials, take what the goals are, and then be like, okay, what are the things that I need to do? Where do we invest the money to get the highest return on investment? And you can apply the exact same thing to someone's income, because it's just like a mini business,
Right.
and same thing. So even today, as long as you have accurate like financial statements, basically, and if you don't know how to do that, literally just like take all your bills and take all your income and just be like, here's my revenue, here's my expenses, and then that's your simple profit and loss statement. And then get on QuickBooks, get on something that can help with just giving you a profit and loss statement, and then absolutely it'll give you insights and analysis where you can literally just upload an Excel file and it'll do an analysis for you.
Yeah, it's pretty good with that. I think the thing, so what I do in my videos is I'll show like a compound interest calculator. So there's two things. I have a Robinhood account. I just did an update video on it. I started it from zero and I invest $250 every week to show the power of compound interest. So what somebody could do if you're watching this, you go to ChatGPT, figure out how much free cash flow you have, which is just the money left over. And then instead of having to like use a calculator like I do, just have ChatGPT tell you how much money you could make using like traditional expected returns. There's like 8 to 10% every year, right?
Mhm.
And it's really powerful. I think another interesting thing would be like, hey, here's my bank statements. Tell me how to improve,
Mhm.
right? Or like I need to find $50 a month. Find it for me, and it could go through. I'm like, oh, you're buying like, buy one less pack of Oreos or something. Every
Stop eating those Twinkies. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. That would be really interesting to see as well. Um, cool, man. So you're working on that business now. What's your goal with the business? How big you trying to get it? Trying to like sell
Yeah.
it, not sell it, and eventually. It's still
Yeah.
pretty early. I know you're running ads
It
now.
is.
You're
It
just like
is.
getting to the market.
Yeah. I mean, first, I would say the scaling plan on that is get it to a point where I'm able to step away from the business and have a capable like CEO running it while I pursue other interests of mine. So I have like several other things that I'm doing. One in like aerospace engineering, creating like drones and stuff, and just use it, man. Yeah, man, dude, it's some fun stuff. And so really just using that free cash flow to start up these other, I would say more like risky investments, but like experimental,
Yeah.
like moonshot investments. And that's really the next goal is like having the free cash flow to be doing that and not just like, reinvesting into like more safe investments, but actually investing into more like moonshot type
Yeah.
startups or companies like that.
Cool, man. No, I totally get it. I mean, it's kind of what I'm doing now. I went through worked at a startup, we got acquired, made a bunch of money in the markets. So now I'm being a YouTuber,
Yeah.
which is cool. But no, I totally get that. And it goes back to kind of what we said earlier. Serial entrepreneurship is just entrepreneurship, right? It's like, oh, cool, did that. Let me try this other thing. Why not? Kind of just max out life. So what's up with the drone company?
Yeah, so that's something that's really interesting. So God gave me the idea. Well, it was really interesting. I wrote down, you know how people are always like, oh, there's these problems with society. Like the school system's broken. Like this is broken. This is broken. And I was like, let me just write down all the things that I see as problems and that I'd like, that I'm interested in like fixing, or that like I believe could be improved.
Yeah.
And so I wrote down this list of like 30. And then I was like, okay, what would be like possible solutions business wise, private solutions that I'd be like interested in, like, okay, this could be a business concept that like solves for this problem. And one of them was, there's a lot of traffic in Miami and traffic's kind of annoying. And I was like, it's about time for like flying cars. So I went in and did analysis of like what companies are currently doing this. And there's like 30 of them. Some Chinese companies, some American companies that are doing okay. And but no one's actually brought to market something that's a feasible solution to a flying car, basically. And so I looked at it as like, okay, what could be, and then got into as like, okay, drones, rideable drones could be a solution for this as the starter. And then looked at different companies that were in that space. After that, I actually went and had calls with several companies, and then ended up acquiring the assets of this company that went under because they couldn't get funding for their next thing, which was going to be, they had built like a rideable, flyable drone like that one person could be in. Yeah. And then they were looking at like building an airplane, and I was like, nah, dude, people just want something that's like, you get in, it's easy as like a video game. Like you can just, it's like cool stuff. Like one joystick, it's like, dude, take off, go, land. It's like, that's what people want. And they were like, wanting to do this like plane thing and couldn't get funding. I was like, well, is what it is. So based off of that, and then I'm, self-taught AI engineering and all that. So I started looking at aerospace engineering, and actually used GPT, used YouTube, and was able to get enough of a knowledge base on that, electrical and mechanical, to understand the parts to MVP, to prototype it. So we got all the way to prototype, and then now I've just been talking to, there's a lot of investment opportunity there too. I was talking to this guy the other day who was like, oh yeah, we could like do this for the government and do it even at MVP prototype stage, of get like a 50 mil valuation, raise 10 mil in seed funding. So I was like, oh, okay, there's definitely interest in these problems that like people are looking to solve. So
very interesting.
Yeah, that was just a passion of mine, and then follow the passions, and tends to open up doors that you would never imagine.
That's true, man. With the way people drive here, I don't know if I want to see flying cars in Miami. That's my only thought. But no, I think automated. They have like the helicopter taxis in New York. I think a taxi system would be like an easy first maneuver, just like specific routes, self-guided. I mean, we have autonomous vehicles right around the corner as well. So I imagine when flying cars happen, it's going to be probably where we have fully autonomous cars. Like you'll get into a flying vehicle, but you're not going to be driving. It's going to be like, we'll get you there, sir.
So the cool thing is the technology already exists. So this is what I went into. So it's like the first thing is prototyping the actual it's a recreational vehicle, aerial vehicle that anybody can drive, basically. And then you get into flying taxis. You can do like 2 to 4 person flying taxis is the next iteration, exactly how you said.
Yeah.
And it already has capabilities. So a drone is actually less complex than a car, interestingly enough, because instead of all these like braking systems and all of that, it literally just has props that electricity is going to. So fully electric also.
Yeah.
So it was like, the more research I did on it, I was like, man, this is like totally feasible. It's more of a logistical issue because all the technology exists right now to make this a reality. And it's the
infrastructure.
The infrastructure and manufacturing, that's the real difficulty thing. And Elon Musk says this all the time. It's like, making a prototype's easy. Doing the actual manufacturing is like a 10 to 100x more complicated problem to solve.
So you have to manufacture every part cheaply enough to cover the cost of everything, right? So when you sell it, it's got to cover the cost of marketing, basically the cost of everything, right?
And all the manufacturing process. Yeah.
It's an interesting concept, but yeah, I mean, flying. So I mean, I have an engineering background myself, so I'm always interested in like that type of stuff. Yeah. It being commercially viable. I mean, that would be pretty dope. I have seen like on YouTube, it's like a single prop kind of helicopter type of drone, right? And you sit in, and it's very simple. I think they almost even had it on like an Xbox controller. But I think that level of control is approachable to people. If you have to take a class to learn how to fly it, it's just not viable. Like, I mean, you take driver's ed, but like, you can learn to drive a car in 2 minutes. It's like this: go, stop, steer, right?
Exactly.
And then everything else is like safety. That's essentially how easy flying has to be. It's like
Right.
up, down, and everything else. is
Forward, backward,
safety.
up, down. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get killed, or kill anybody else. Cool, man. We definitely should talk offline, or not offline, but outside of this, about some of that. I didn't know you were working on all that stuff. That's pretty cool. Well, there's 2 questions I like to ask everyone at the end of every show, but before that, anything you want to ask me?
What inspired? I know you talked a little bit about this, but like, what inspired you to actually like start YouTube?
It's a lot of things now, but I think my original inspiration was I just like creating stuff. I mean, I was recording. I remember we were, so me and my gang of neighborhood lads would all ride around on like little BMX bikes. We'd film videos on like whatever. I don't remember what
The
it
handheld
was.
cams.
Yeah, it was like the camcorders. And we were making videos back in the day. And like, what's crazy is I remember making videos, we'd edit it. The way you got people to see your video was you would show it to them. We would go and say, hey, watch this. And that was the only way. But I remember doing that very passionately. So that's always been a passion of mine, is capturing moments for a story. And we would do like skits and stuff, putting stuff on YouTube like way back in the day. So like, yeah, I'm feeling old, but like I remember like YouTube like coming out, and like I've always wanted to be a YouTuber, not just for like the money, but like because I like creating stuff. I'm also a dancer. I'm just a creative guy. So there's that. Personal finance comes into play though, because I grew up, my parents were in the Navy. They ended up getting divorced. This ended up being pretty broke, kind of like growing up. And so having learned how to get out of that and just like do pretty well in life, it's like people are always asking me like, hey, how do I save money? Or how much money should I save? It's like, hey, I know I should save money, but like, how much should I save? Where should I save it? And so they get analysis overloaded, so they do nothing. So a big reason why I started this account, which is up to like, I think it's up to like $8,000 now. I started from zero. If you haven't seen it, go watch the series from the first episode, guys. I literally invest $250 every week from zero. Yep, it's up to like $7,500.
Let's go.
So, and that's just a brand new account that I started, but it's to just show people that like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can even be wrong. Like you can say you save, $100,000 and you're terrible and you end up being down 5%. Well, guess what? You've got 95K, right? You're better off. That's not going to happen. The odds of that happening are very, very low. I can't say it's not going to happen, but you still have 95K in the bank, right? And you don't want to be in a position. And unfortunately, I have friends, because I'm getting older, but I have friends who are 30 years my senior. They're in their 50s or 60s, and they don't have retirement savings, right? And it's cool to say, hey, you got to get after it. Like, go be an entrepreneur. That's fine. We're young, right? I already feel less useful now than I did when I was in my 20s. So I know where I'm going. I feel like I'm going to be young for a long time, but it's not really tenable to go to somebody who's 55 or 56 or 60 and say, hey, go start a business, right? And so I don't want people to be in that position. I can't necessarily change that outcome, but even if you're 55, I tell people, it's like, well, if you're going to live to 75, better start putting some money in the bank now, right? Because you still have something. So that's why I started the YouTube channel. It's just like, you got to lead by example. I started this account because doing the math is fine, but unless you actually see somebody doing it, it can just seem like, oh, they're just saying stuff, right? So it's like, let me just actually just start a Robinhood account. It's nothing crazy. Like, I don't even like Robinhood. I put up a bunch of videos saying stop using Robinhood after the whole thing, but I was like, it is the most
Accessible.
Yeah. It's accessible. The app is actually good. So I don't like the business, but the app is fine.
Yeah.
The business is probably fine too, to be honest. So yeah, I just started. You got to lead by example. It's a very simple thing. My coach told me in college, it's like, if you want people to listen to you, you got to win races. Captain of the track team, college, I was fighting with my peers and stuff about like training or whatever. And he's just like, dude, just win. Like, people
Start winning races, they'll listen.
People will listen to the winners. It's like, nobody wants to hear. It is true. It's you can be right, but it's like, if people don't want to emulate you, or if they don't want to put themselves in your shoes, they're not going to listen to you. And that's just like a it can suck at first, but then when you realize that you do the same thing, it's like, are you listening to people that you don't look up to or respect? No, of course not. They could be right. Like, hey, Jay, you should do this. And you're just like, I don't even like you, dude. Why would
I listen to you?
Yeah. So like, we're all wired that way. So I'm just like, okay. So, but that's what I do. YouTube is just a mix of passions, finance, creativity, helping people, leaving something behind. I think a little bit of legacy is in there, but yeah, just like to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's incredible because it actually gives people, I really love that you're doing the 250 days thing. It's like, Because like $8,000, that could be a down payment on an investment property. Like
Right.
there's tons that you can do with that amount of money. And compared to like, a lot of people are like 40,000 in debt. So it's like even just like, hey, just get some assets. Even if I'm curious about this. I'd love to ask you about this since you're in that finance world too, of like, what are the practical things of like, if people are like literally in debt? Because I have some ideas, but I'd love to hear from you as well.
If you're in debt, so I'm a big, 'cause I've been in debt before. I've been broke. In my early 20s, I bought an E90, so I'm a car guy. I had a job out of college. I was making like $60,000 a year. Overspent on a car. Had some other random bills. Oh yeah, my car, like I needed a repair, and then I think I bought some like furniture. So I was just being young and stupid, right? Ended up with like $23K of credit card debt, which at the time was like, if I'm making $60,000 a year, my debt was like approaching half of my annual salary. So I negative net worth for sure. Don't know what it was at the time. So what did I do? I think I don't have the best answer. Like I'm not a Dave Ramsey, but I could tell you what I did was I just got extremely aggressive. My entire life became about paying off the debt. So I didn't go out. I started doing actual work. I started doing software consulting. So I started a business because I had a skill that I was getting paid a salary for. I was like, let me just go and get some extra income. So we started working on an app for like this guy was a chemist. He makes like flavors, and he wanted like a .NET app. So we're building that, and I just started like cleaning up my finances. Honestly, I started budgeting, stopped spending, and it didn't take me long to pay it off at all. It was actually pretty crazy how little time it took me to pay it off when I just stopped spending money and just paying off debt. So that's what I did. I would say be crazy, be fanatical about it. It's gonna be a lot easier to see progress towards something that's scary if you're fanatical about it. If you try to chip away at it, I think there is it can sound counterintuitive because I just talked about like doing consistent things, but like consistency needs to like match like your passion, I would say. So it's like if you have a problem, like a big problem, I would say you need to attack it fanatically. If there's something you want to do, like this account, it's $250 a week, $1,000 a month. When I started it, I'm like, this is like, it's like whatever, it's a small account. But what's interesting is eventually this account is going to become a meaningful amount of money to me. And I'm just doing it for YouTube. But I started thinking like, how can I take this serious? I was like, maybe once this account hits 100K, like I'll go and buy like an investment property and just continue the series. So now I have options. That's what I always say, like having money gives you options. And so, yeah, it's really interesting that I was literally thinking about this the other day, and I was like, I just have 7.5K that like, I don't really care. Like I'm not supposed to care about it, but it's like the numbers just going up and up and up. So I already have my other long-term portfolio. So this is just like YouTube money essentially. It'll be interesting to see, but in terms of personal finance, that's how I've always operated, whether it's paying off debt, saving, like if I needed money for something, it's just like, okay, everything, like I'm not going out, I'll sell something. Like if there was something I was passionate about and I needed, 50K, like I would sell my M2 in a second, if I just needed it, like if I didn't have enough and I just needed an extra 50K, like I would sell my car. It's paid off, I would just sell it. And I was like, because let's go buy another one, like, that's the type of person I am. So it's like, go all in.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. And like a couple of things that you hit on of like, no, like actually know your numbers, like know what you want to go after is like, know how much you're in debt. Like you knew how much in debt you were. It's like, just look at it. Cause so many, even business owners, like it's hard to like look at the actual finances. You just don't know it. But it's like, as soon as you do it, like, oh, okay, now I've got it. Now I know exactly what I need to do. And let me like hit this fanatically and like do that consistently, which is really incredible.
Yeah, man, definitely. So my two questions are, the first one is, we'll leave on a positive note, but the first one is, what are you most afraid of?
I mean, the answer that immediately comes to me is like, the only thing to fear is God. Like the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah. Outside of reverence for God.
Outside of that is, I'm not sure it's fear, but it's definitely along the same lines. And for me, it would be not finding a good wife, actually. And like, because there's a deep desire within me to have a great relationship, have a great family.
Yeah.
And a very big desire to do that really well.
Your parents are pretty close?
They are, yes.
So you want to like replicate like the environment you grew up in.
Yeah, and even and like make it better from the knowledge that I have now of just like, oh, this is like, teaching more about entrepreneurship and more about you're able to learn anything now, and just allowing allowing my children to like, raise well in that and being a good father for that.
Okay.
So the fear comes from like there's like not having that, but more so of like, I would say more of a healthy fear of like do that well and like conduct myself well in that and live by what I like the values that I actually stand for. And
So part of it isn't just having a wife; it's being a good husband,
exactly,
being the other part of that picture.
exactly,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
That's a healthy fear. I mean, that's a good anxiety to have. I would say in a problem solving mode, this is something I always think anytime there's a problem. Well, what if you don't find a good wife?
well, then my prayer is like, well, even within that I would still maintain of like being a good husband because that is something I can control.
There you go. Yeah. I think you'll find a good wife. But I just
I believe it too.
I like to flip it. No, I think it's just a good exercise to do of this like,
Yeah.
okay, I have this fear of it's almost like FOMO. It's fear of missing out. There's this thing I want. What if I never get it? What if you never get it? Let's just say like and literally just like project your life. Like what if I never build the $20 million business I want to build? And I work my whole life on it. That's something I do. It's like, what if I have this vision? What if I never do it? It's like, well, this is probably what my life will look like. Am I cool with that? Yeah. I'll have other accomplishments that aren't that. Other people tell me I'm doing good. It's like, I have this thing that I want, but, I'm still doing pretty okay. You just have to have gratitude. So,
I think that's what it is. Yeah. I don't dwell on fear a lot,
yeah.
if at all. I think gratitude really combats it too.
Yeah.
Like gratitude, gratefulness, and giving.
GGG. Gratitude, gracefulness,
Yeah.
and giving. I like that. Cool, man. All right. So, what are you most excited about?
I am super excited for these, like, literally just for this next year, for the next 4 years. The amount of like, regardless of what you hear like going on in the world, like now is like technology is evolving at the fastest pace ever in our lives, and we have access to like the most incredible inventions in human history. And regardless of what like anybody tells you, like the reality is like that's truth. Like you have access to things that like nobody on earth has ever had access to. You have access to like to GPT, which is like a magical thing. It's like way better than the internet of like, oh yeah, I can search for anything. I have this magic thing to search for anything and start anything. It's like now I have this magical thing that can just do stuff for me now.
Yeah.
And that's like super exciting in terms of the technology that's coming about with robotics, just from my work in there of like exponentially things are getting better in the world in the sense of technology is improving the lives of like hundreds of thousands of people. And if you like look around you and it's not improving your life, it's like, we'll start using the technology and guaranteed it will start improving.
That's what I would say. Like a lot of people have, I think, a realistic, healthy anxiety or fear of AI because it is this new space. It seems very magical, right? If you're not a technical person, it seems magical. Artificial intelligence, like what is the intelligence? I might be able to alleviate some of those fears, but to your lay person, let's just assume they'll never understand it, as they shouldn't, right? That's how like most people don't understand how hydraulic engines work, and they never will. They know this pedal goes, this pedal
They
stops.
enjoy driving places, yeah.
Right. So I would say learn how to use it though. Like you said, empower yourself. Like ChatGPT today, I pay for it, but there is a free version. People should be understanding how these things can be used. You don't have to understand how it's built, right? But let's just use the car analogy. It's like if you know that an engine makes things spin, where can that apply in your life? Maybe you don't build a car. Maybe you build a water mill, right? A V8 powered water mill, or whatever else, like a plane.
Yeah.
You take that same engine, put it in a plane. That's what they did in World War II, right? So there's a lot of ways, I guess, to use it, but it's coming. It's unstoppable. I mean, at this point, it's like been unleashed into the wild.
And it goes so much deeper than that because it's like it's not even just that technology. It's like the technology of influence of like literally anybody can become like influential nowadays. Which a lot of people seem to want to, but it's like just start making videos, like start making things that like of things that you're passionate about, want to share with the world, and you can actually create an impact that way. And then same thing with like any of the problems that like are facing society. Like every single person now has the ability to like single-handedly like change the direction of society by actually using the tools available to them nowadays, which is like amazing because that has never been the case before.
100%, man. Jay, thank you, man. We just hit about an hour. Perfect timing.
Fantastic.
Where can people find you?
You can follow me, The Real Jay Storm, on Instagram or any of the socials. And then also I do have a YouTube channel. So you can just type in Jay Storm. There's also a black rapper dude. That's not me. I'm the other guy. I'm the white guy with glasses. So feel free to follow me on there. I make videos on business, AI, as well as principles that I'm studying from the Bible. So
Cool.
It's it's any of those places.
Check them out. Per usual, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Go ahead, copy and paste the URL for this video and share it with 2 of your friends. And I know that I'll see each and every one of you in the next one.
I'm never gonna look back, 'cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change, slowly take a step.